lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise loud as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
You may be seated. Well, that should have warmed us up. Good afternoon once again, and happy Dr. King Day to each of you. I'd like to welcome you to the 27th Annual Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award celebration. I'm Omar Brownell, and I consider it a privilege to serve as the MC for today's celebration. We're thrilled to gather here and demonstrate our support and advocacy for Dr. King's undying dream of equality and interracial understanding. As we have for decades, Oakland University continues to expand and enhance our efforts to maintain welcoming, inclusive, and culturally diverse campus. We also maintain our strong dedication to engaging students, faculty, and staff of all heritages and walks of life in learning and enrichment activities that support their academic and professional success. For more than 25 years now, this celebration recognizes students who have excelled in their studies, immersed themselves in campus and broader community activities, and importantly demonstrated strong leadership in breaking down cultural stereotypes and bringing people together. We will continue that tradition today by presenting 9 honorees with the Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Awards. On a daily basis, these students are making positive impacts in many areas of this campus, as well as the broader community. You will have a chance to hear more about their success later in the program. I'd like to get things started by introducing a tremendous supporter of our efforts to create an inclusive campus environment. Please join me in welcoming our president to the stage, Dr. Ora Hurst-Peskovich.
Thank you so much, Omar. I'd like to begin my remarks with a very special thank you to our named scholarship sponsors, Autoliv Americas, Beaumont Health, which is also our signature sponsor and a supporter of this event for 22 years, Flagstar Bank, the Key Bank Foundation, the Lynn and Leah McIntosh Scholarship Fund, the Marshall Family Scholar Foundation, Oakland University Credit Union, Oakland University Alumni Association, and St. Joseph Mercy Oakland. Thank you also to our Unity sponsor, Willis Towers Watson. Please join me now in recognizing these friends of the university and their efforts to making a lasting difference in the lives of Oakland students. Please join in a round of applause. I would also like to acknowledge Marianne Fay, a member of our Board of Trustees. Marianne, would you please stand to be acknowledged? I have to tell you that the Keeper of the Dream is among my favorite events at Oakland University. And this is for several reasons. It's really an opportunity for our community to come together, to stand by each other, and to feel the connection that binds all of us as human beings with a moral conscience. It's a symbol of our commitment to racial, cultural, religious, and gender diversity. It's a sign that we remain vigilant to the cause of social justice here and around the country and really around the world. It's a reminder that while we honor Dr. King's dream of a society of opportunity and equality that reflects the highest ideals of American democracy, we still have a long way to go for his dream, for our dream to be fulfilled. And for me, there is a deeply personal connection that I have with this day, a familial connection that binds me to this righteous current of civil rights, this history that imparts a clear moral vision. So let me just explain. 56 years later, I can still clearly recall that humid August night in 1963, the day before the March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered one of the greatest orations in American history with his I Have a Dream speech. My father, Rabbi Richard G. Hirsch, a prominent civil rights activist, and my mother were hosting a barbecue for interdenominational clergy at our home in a Washington, D.C. suburb, as they often did. And you know, there was a great concern about whether the march, which many of the guests that night had actually helped to organize, would erupt into violence, as had many of the other marches around the country at that time. But the next day, on the Washington Mall, as a 7-year-old child, standing at my parents' side, there was no violence, just profound clarity. I listened to Dr. King deliver what is the most inspirational proclamations of the mission and the promise of America. In reflecting now on that day and on the life of Dr. King, I am inspired with the greatest hope. Dr. King's words are a source of illumination for those of us in higher education. But while many universities place a high priority on making campuses more inclusive, we cannot look past a disturbing reality. What should be a rational discussion about the merits of cultural, racial, gender, and religious diversity is too often undermined by a dangerously reactionary and uncivil discourse of name-calling, of hateful threats, and even of acts of violence. It has been only 18 months since the country's simmering racial and political tensions were exposed during the horrific confrontations among counter-protesters in Charlottesville. confronting the America that indeed exists, and supporting a more inclusive society comes with an obligation for those of us in higher education. While today's universities are places of learning, research, and scholarship, we must be mindful that the pursuit of knowledge and a deeper understanding of human nature goes beyond academic disciplines. We learn from one another, just as we pursue new knowledge from the expansion of academic scholarship. When our students are exposed and connected to different cultures, peoples, and ideas, there's a deeper appreciation of diversity and a broader understanding of our common interests. But looking ahead, there is so much reason for optimism. Students across our nation are increasingly active in pushing for environmental protections, for human rights, and a greater voice in a range of social issues. And it is worth noting that November's congressional election has translated into the most diverse representation of race, gender, and culture in American history. And of course, we don't have to look far to see our own Oakland University students who are breaking down stereotypes and promoting racial, religious, gender, and cultural understanding. Our 9 students who are honored with the Keeper of the Dream Awards today embody the best qualities of the human spirit: intelligence, compassion, and drive. A drive to make our community, our world, a more humane and a better place. And I am just so proud of each and every one of you. So today, as we celebrate Dr. King's 90th birthday, let's look around and appreciate the many inspiring reasons for hope while learning from the lessons of the past. And let us be mindful, though, of the difficult challenges that still lie ahead. I do find some wisdom from the words of my father, who on the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington observed, "We have come a long way, but the more we advance, the more we see that more has to be done." The march was very important and very successful, but in the final analysis, it was only an important link in a long, arduous chain of events and daily sacrifices of millions of Americans in a drama which is still unfolding. The dream that Dr. King articulated so eloquently is equal parts moral imperative and a personal challenge. So today, as we honor our extremely talented and dedicated Oakland University students, I want each of you to take a moment and consider how you too can contribute to the great legacy of social justice in America. Thank you.
Thank you, President Peskovich. It is now my pleasure to begin the presentation of Oakland University's 2019 Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Awards. Yes, yes. We will begin with the KeyBank Foundation Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. Destiny Rule. Destiny has worked with the Gender and Sexuality Center to help educate staff on how to support LGBT+ students. This work has won her considerable respect and solution-oriented professional and determined individual. Destiny has also served as a peer mentor in the Center for Multicultural Initiatives, as a parent ambassador for the Office of Orientation and New Student Programs, as a success coach for the First Year Advising Center, and as Diversity and Inclusion Director for Oakland University Student Congress. She contributes to the surrounding community in her role as Philanthropy Chair of OU's Gamma Phi Beta Delta Omega sorority. This organization's fundraising events have benefited Grace Hope Center of Hope and Haven in Pontiac, as well as Girls on the Run International. Let's watch Destiny explain what being recognized means to her today.
I have had access to strong Black figures in my life, such as my mom and my grandfather. I have to use the access I've had to education, exploration, and support in order to provide assistance to those who have not. Promoting racial understanding to break the glass ceiling for minorities cannot be done without proper education and support. Growing up with a single mom has provided me with the opportunity to grow, learn, and explore different ideologies. This has guided me first to tolerance and then acceptance. I am also inspired by my drive to gain justice for those who have lost their lives doing this work. I do not intend to be a martyr, but with the marginalized identities that I possess, I intend to be a voice for those who have none. The concept of Blackness and other marginalized identities have been erased or suppressed. We should not be creating legislature that erases trans and queer people. We have to create legislature that supports that community. Instead of erasing those identities, we have to embrace them. And that is what Dr. King would advocate for. Every department I have worked with has developed my appreciation for diversity and inclusion, including the Gender and Sexuality Center, Orientation and New Student Programs, and the First Year Advising Center. I use my knowledge from those experiences as Diversity and Inclusion Director for Oakland University Student Congress to plan events, host lectures, and create initiatives for our campus community. Thank you, KeyBank Foundation, for this award and this recognition. With your support, I will be able to further my education and continue to offer marginalized communities the support and acceptance that they deserve.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present Destiny Rule with the KeyBank Foundation Keeper of the Dream Award. Destiny. Yes. Congratulations. Ghazi Ghazi. An Iraqi native and international relations major, Ghazi helped found OU's Arab American Student Association, which is devoted to increasing cultural awareness and inclusion among Arab American students here at Oakland. Along with commendable academic achievements, he has volunteered with Erotha Youth Refugee Mentoring Program and Keys Grace Academy. Ghazi is also involved in Oakland's CARE program, which pairs American students with international students to learn more about each other's culture and customs. And he was among a select group of students chosen as fellows of PEN America at OU, an immigration storytelling project. As Legislative Affairs Director for OU's Student Congress, Ghazi worked to increase civic engagement among students by coordinating voter registration drives and events that bridge civic engagement with celebration of diversity. Let's hear more from Ghazi in his own words.
It's important to promote racial understandings because I believe that no one should ever feel ashamed of their culture, race, or ethnicity. I work hard to provide a space that is inclusive to all students on campus because this is the time where students should be exploring different cultures and learning more about the world. Someone who truly inspires me is Malala Yousafzai, an activist for rights to education who was brutally shot by the Taliban just for going to school as a young child. The overall message from her experience is that a good education should be a right to all people of the world, not certain groups or classes. Her activism helped bring to light that education is a right for all. It should not be infringed upon. I've had an amazing time over the past 3 years serving on the executive board of the Arab American Student Association. During this time, our board has worked to promote Arab culture and to mitigate media perceptions. This organization has helped to create a space for Arab Americans to come together and also for non-Arabs to come and learn more about the culture and history. Thank you so much, Flagstar Bank, for making one of my longest dreams at this university possible. Without you, I wouldn't be up here right now receiving this once-in-a-lifetime recognition. I hope the work that my fellow recipients and I have made at this university has made you proud and continues after today.
We are pleased to present Ghazi Ghazi with the Flagstar Keeper of the Dream Bank Award. Congratulations again. Flavio Di Stefano. Flavio, a double major in international relations and French language and literature, helps promote a culture of dignity and acceptance for all. He has done so through activities such as organizing trips to downtown Detroit for Hispanic Celebration Month, putting together an authentic quinceañera for International Night, and planning a Diwali event for the Hindu Festival of Lights. Flavio has served as a peer mentor for the Center for Multicultural Initiatives and the Gender and Sexuality Center. And on the academic side of campus life has been a member of OU's Alpha, Lambda Delta, and Nu Omega chapters. He has served as secretary for the treasurer of the French Club, a student organization that provided him an environment in which to share keen insights on topics including racial inequality, gender disparity, and cultural biases. Let's take a moment to hear from Flavio.
My mom has been and is the greatest influence and motivation for the work I do on campus. My dad has shown me the art of resilience and perseverance. They have not once held me back. They have taught me the fundamentals of caring and of respect, principles that guide me every single day. Dr. King's vision is extremely relevant today because despite the great improvements our society has gone through, many marginalized groups are still faced with ignorance and acts of bigotry. Following Dr. King's path, we're building up strength to continue his journey to guarantee equal opportunities for everyone here at Oakland University and in the surrounding communities. I am extremely thankful for the Center for Multicultural Initiatives and the Gender and Sexuality Center. They allow me to grow as a person and become a student leader. As a leader, I'm able to listen to students who are part of marginalized groups and guide them through their college experience. My job as Diversity Director for the Student Program Board allows me to create large-scale diversity events that raise awareness within the university community. Thank you, Autoliv, for believing in the work I do at Oakland University. The Keeper of the Dream Scholarship will help me to continue working for equality. My peers and I will keep fighting for justice. Again, thank you, Autoliv.
We are pleased to present Flavio Destani with the Autoliv North America Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. We will now present the Oakland University Credit Union Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. Julia Alexander. A child of immigrants and not as economically advantaged as many in her community, political science major Julie Alexander knows firsthand the struggle of trying to fit in. This struggle, however, has fueled her passion for activism and becoming heavily interested in the community. Here at OU, Julia serves as Associate Chair of the Student Activities Funding Board, as a peer mentor for the Center for Multicultural Initiatives, and as a legislator in OU Student Congress. She has coordinated campus events including screening of the mass incarceration documentary 13th, a panel discussion titled The Intersectionality of Womanhood, and a national school walkout event against gun violence. Our honoree will now offer us additional insight as to why she is inspired by this award.
The Keeper of the Dream Award means so much to me for so many reasons. It's important because not only is it a reflection of my morals and values as a person, but also a reflection of my work in diversity and inclusion. To be compared to Dr. King in any way is an enormous honor, and that's why this award is so important to me. While things have improved significantly since the time of Dr. King, we are still working daily to fight for justice for underrepresented groups, and that's why we have to keep his vision for equality at the front of our minds. I am definitely most proud to represent the Center for Multicultural Initiatives as a peer mentor. Through my peer mentor-mentee relationships, I am proud to help strong young women from diverse backgrounds navigate their way through their college experiences. But more than that, I'm proud to represent an office that wants diversity and inclusion for all of its students. Thank you so much to Oakland University Credit Union for providing me with the Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. This is a huge honor, and I am so grateful to be recognized for the work I do. I promise to continue my efforts in creating a more inclusive environment here at Oakland and in my community.
We are pleased to present Julia Alexander with the Oakland University Credit Union Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. Now for the Beaumont Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. Yabuka Unabagaha, correct? Unabaga, yes. Unabaga, a clinical diagnostic studies first major and first-generation Nigerian American, knows what it is like to be ridiculed for his name and ethnicity, but nonetheless proudly displays his full name on his name tag as an affirmation of his identity and background. He has found while interacting with people, his decision has helped him engage in conversations about different cultures, as well as help others feel comfortable in their own skin. He has also served as a math teaching assistant for OU's core Summer Bridge program, which helps incoming freshmen from underrepresented backgrounds prepare for their academic and social challenges. He is described as a scholar, leader, and a responsible citizen. He has gained this reputation in no small part by volunteering at Gleaner's Food Bank, taking part in OU's Make a Difference Day, and contributing to OU sustaining our Planet Earth program. Now let's hear more from Abuka in his own words.
Stereotypes do not define a person or who they want to be. What really matters is the respect and discussion needed to understand who we are as individuals. When we work towards this goal, we achieve empathy and become an example for others to promote racial understanding. Learning about equality and morals as a kid, to understanding racial identities and stereotypes as a young adult, I have always been inspired to break down barriers when it comes to the color of my skin, the culture of my parents, and even the education that I'm seeking for the rest of my life. Dr. King's vision will always be relevant in every aspect of people's lives. Particularly in a time where equality is still an issue for minority groups, his vision holds true that it takes a discussion with conscientious people to work together to create equality for all in the world. The Academic Peer Mentor Program has provided me the opportunity to create programs based on diversity, inclusion, and equity, and to teach our residential population to be aware of these issues and the importance of understanding different cultures and ethnicities. I would like to thank Beaumont Health for making this scholarship possible for me. It means so much to me to be offered this scholarship and to be recognized by your organization. Thank you.
We are pleased to present Ibuka with the Beaumont Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. Congratulations. Our next presentation will be the Marshall Family Scholar Foundation Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. Benjamin Lane. Describing himself as an advocate for inclusion who is never afraid to go against the grain, communication major Benjamin Lane utilizes his role as student orientation assistant to show new students that Oakland University boasts a campus that anyone can call home. He also serves as a peer mentor in the Center for Multicultural Initiatives, which allows him to positively impact the lives of freshmen and sophomore students from underrepresented backgrounds. In the classroom and in the campus activities, he has established a reputation of facilitating open dialogue on issues related to race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, religion, and class, all while helping to unite diverse groups of students with love, support, and empowerment. Let's listen to Ben tell us more about his goals and why he is honored to be recognized today.
Promoting racial understanding is important to me because I grew up in a setting where I was often labeled or defined by stereotypes of my racial background. I've also witnessed people of varying backgrounds be judged because of a similar lack of diversity in their community. I believe no one should be identified by generalizations or assumptions. It isn't fair and deprives people of their individuality. I'm inspired by my ancestors who sacrificed more than I could ever imagine just to have basic rights in this country. I'm inspired by the civil rights activists that took on the challenge of leading the charge for racial equality. I'm also inspired by celebrities who risk their careers to use their platform to speak up for those whose voices have been silenced. And I'm inspired by previous Keeper of the Dream recipients who have worked to improve this campus. I am most proud of my work as an orientation assistant because I have the opportunity to impact a lot of incoming freshmen and work with other student leaders to promote equity on this campus. I would like to thank the Marshall Family Scholar Foundation for supporting my ongoing pursuit of knowledge and experiences here at Oakland University. Thank you.
We're pleased to present Benjamin Lane with the Marshall Family Scholar Keeper of the Dream Award. We will now present the Oakland University Alumni Association Keeper of the Dream, G. Centroy Henry III. Political science major G. Centroy Henry III is admired and respected for his empathy, selflessness, compassion, and goodwill. As a core ambassador for the Center for Multicultural Initiatives, as a co-host of OU WXOU Campus Radio, and his interaction with classmates, he communicates purposefully and thoughtfully, particularly when discussions involve race, class, ability, and gender. Troy also vigorously defends people's rights to maintain individual views and opinions. He has opportunity to consider many views as a member of the Awkward Pause Theater Troupe, whose mission is to provoke thought and inspire social change. This and other campus experiences have allowed him to learn from different people of different backgrounds to create bridges that help people understand each other better. Let us hear more from G. Centroy.
A legacy of achievement has been instilled in me by my mentors, colleagues, and former recipients of the award who continue to do great things on our campus. Being awarded myself serves as proof that I'm doing what I'm supposed to and making the world a better place for all people. My mentor, Alex Currington, is one of many people that inspire me to work towards breaking down cultural barriers. I appreciate him in ensuring my successful transition and growth from high school to college, which has further helped me to be worthy of this award. Dr. King's vision of peace is relevant today more than ever. With so many unfortunate unarmed killings, school shootings, and more growing by the day, Dr. King's vision should be at the forefront in our communities. The Center for Multicultural Initiatives is definitely what I'm most proud of when working to improve diversity and inclusion. They took me in, a kid that wanted to help improve the world and further molded me to be the change I wanted to see. Mentoring students has helped me impact others to achieve their goals and has also revealed qualities in myself that have truly helped me become great. I'd like to thank the Oakland University Alumni Association for their commitment to making the world a better place. By sponsoring awards to showcase hardworking students that promote change, you are helping in this fight. We won't let you down, and thank you for your support.
We're pleased to present Jason Troy Henry III with the Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. The St. Joseph Mercy Oakland Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award, Desiree Robinson. Doctor of Physical Therapy student Desiree Robinson has seen few people of color pursue her chosen career field, but she uses this experience as personal motivation to achieve her goals and set positive examples for others. In addition to her studies, she has held a variety of leadership positions, including first vice president of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, new chapter, and leadership chair of Phi Sigma Pi National Honor Fraternity, Eta chapter. Desiree is also a member of the Black Graduate Student Association and Graduate Student Physical Therapy Association. She formerly served as peer mentor and college coach for the Center for Multicultural Initiatives and as a program assistant and admissions ambassador for the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Let's hear more from Desiree.
Receiving this award is such an exciting opportunity. Knowing that my efforts are being recognized inspires me to continue working to live out Dr. King's dream and positively influence those around me. Receiving this award helps break down preconceived racial stereotypes, allowing nothing to stand in the way of my success. It is uncomfortable being the only Black female in the physical therapy program. I can count on one hand how many African American physical therapists I know. I may not have a role model of my own on this journey, but every student of color seeking to go into a predominantly white field needs someone to look up to. This inspires me to be the change I want to see. Dr. King's dream is still relevant because people of color do not have equal opportunities, freedoms, or security. For example, the large gap in the resources available to students who go to predominantly Black schools versus predominantly white schools, and the disparities in the justice system for Black men and white men who are accused of the same crime. I am most proud of my work with Phi Sigma Pi National Honor Fraternity. This work has allowed me to step out of my comfort zone, become vulnerable, open to change, and break down my preconceived notions of other races. This was important to me to begin to promote interracial understanding and to make the chapter more diverse. I would like to thank St. Joseph Mercy Oakland for this award. It is because of companies like yourselves that students like me can pursue their wildest dreams. I can continue on to my second year in the physical therapy program, becoming the best physical therapist possible, and remaining a role model for undergraduate students. Thank you.
We're pleased to present Desiree Robinson with the Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. We will now present the Lynn and Leah McIntosh Scholarship Keeper of the Dream Award. Ernesto Duran Gutierrez. Dance major and honors college member, Ernesto strives to both succeed and serve his community. He is president of OU Dancers Student Organizations and a member of the Student Advisory Group in the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. Ernesto has also served as an orientation group leader, admissions ambassador, and admissions programming assistant. Seen by fellow students as a leader and role model, he was elected as Ambassador of the Month in September 2017. As an honors college student, he has learned that students can sometimes be teachers and that education is much more about sharing ideas than gaining knowledge. Ernesto's instructors credit him for hard work, empathy, positivity, and self-awareness, as well as the fact that he seeks to support the success of others as much as his own. Let's hear more from Ernesto.
Promoting racial understanding between all people while breaking down stereotypes is crucial because when we as humans not only embrace but celebrate all that makes us different, we begin to create harmony and dance in unity. If it wasn't for growing up in my hometown of Saginaw, I would not have become the person I am today. Being exposed to different cultures, communities, and generations of leaders, I am constantly inspired to fulfill my promise to my city and return home one day so that I may continue to build bridges in my community. In a time when our cultural awareness is greater, our causes are stronger, Dr. King's vision of equality is ever more important. As members across society continue to define the meaning of identity, we must continue to strengthen the bonds that tie us together so that we may live in a civil world. After becoming an admissions programming assistant in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, not only have I been able to engage with all guests on campus, I have been able to reach out and connect with prospective students of all backgrounds to help them take the first step in finding a home in the OU community. I would like to give a sincere thank you to the Lynn and Leah McIntosh Scholarship for investing in my adventure so that I may continue to set goals, raise cultures, and ultimately fulfill my vision.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present Ernesto Duran Gutierrez with the Lynn and Leah McIntosh Scholarship Keeper of the Dream Award. Congratulations again to all of our scholarship recipients. Another round of applause. I'd also like to recognize trustee Tanya Allen, who has joined us. Please rise and be recognized. Thank you. And if there are former recipients of the Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award, please rise and be recognized. Thank you. At this point in the program, I'm pleased to present our keynote speaker. Jeff Johnson is an award-winning journalist, communications expert, and consultant to Fortune 500 companies, political institutions, and celebrities. For 2 decades, he has utilized his knowledge, experience, and creativity to develop organizational solutions and systematic change for his clients he serves. Johnson is a master storyteller and message developer who is comfortable in front of the camera as he is behind the scenes. He has conducted interviews with former President Barack Obama, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and regularly provides content on the nationally syndicated Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Johnson co-wrote Steve Harvey's New York Times bestseller, Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success, and has developed content and managed distribution across all of Harvey's social media platforms. With his firm, he has helped develop a system to transition companies' employee resource groups to business resource groups, a process that can significantly improve diversity and inclusion programs, recruitment and development, HR effectiveness, and overall revenue. We are honored to have such an accomplished and respected professional join us in celebrating Dr. King's vision and opportunity of success for all. Oakland University, please join me in welcoming Jeff Johnson.
Good morning. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be here. To your president, board of trustees, all other members of the faculty and staff, to members of the community, to guests, friends, to our honorees and their families, to past honorees, all in protocol and all I don't know to call. What's up? I want to say thank you for the invitation. I find it not robbery, or I find it humbling to be included in 27 years of distinguished executives, entertainers, educators, and servants that have been a part of this incredible legacy, and I don't take it for granted. But what makes this event so special after 27 years is those that you've honored. And I hope that all of us took a moment to really listen to pieces of stories, because you never really get the full story. And so I just want to say before I begin, thank you. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you, Ghazi. Thank you, Flavio. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Chukwuebuka. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Jacinth Troy. Thank you, Desiree. Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you to the sponsors that ensured that you were honored properly. Thank you to the institution for having a dedication to the program. Thank you for your families who came out today and who understand what you've gone through to get here in a way that a small presentation can never explain to us. Thank you for your work and how you've done it. We honor you one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give them another round of applause? So the current landscape that we find ourselves in is interesting. We have elected officials who find themselves ideologues on both sides of the aisle, more interested in shouting into the wind what it is they believe is right versus working to pragmatically put in place policy that impacts the majority of the people. When we think about a shutdown that in many cases both sides are talking about is over one issue, it is inexcusable to allow families to have to shut down processes to buy their first home, to have to deny children access to resources that otherwise would have been available, all in the name of political posturing. And if you want to blame one side or the other, that's fine. But Washington has proved itself that it is more interested in ideologues who pontificate than politicians who are practically principled at bringing about policy with people they disagree with. We find ourselves in interesting times when violence is all over the place. And whether I'm looking on social media at a grown 6'5" white man knocking out by punching in the face an 11-year-old girl, or whether I'm looking at those in communities where a young African American accidentally shoots a 7-year-old girl because it's a mistaken identity of another gang, or whether it's police brutality, or whether it's the large number of individuals that find themselves with guns that are not necessary in the process of loving guns and using them in a way that destroys humanity versus lifts it up. And the very policy that people attempt to push forward in knee-jerk reactions, that's not about pragmatic policy, but it's about reactionary policy. We're in a difficult place when, in the words of our former Attorney General Eric Holder, we are a nation of cowards when it comes to talking about the issue of race. Afraid to have difficult discussions even in halls of academia. When people are so sensitive that they are more interested in being politically correct than they are respectfully honest. We are in a difficult place in time when the very issues that we need to discuss, and whether it's immigration or religion or sexuality and gender or race or whatever other isms there are, we find ourselves in echo chambers where we're shouting only at those who agree with what we agree with, so it can reverberate off of walls where cowards who sit in rooms with large keyboards can act like they're digital gangsters with anonymous pictures and low intellect. All right. This is the backdrop for our discussion. And because it's the backdrop for our discussion, I don't know how to do anything but be honest. And so on this 90th birthday of Dr. King and this entrance into the season of blackness, okay, let me set the tone real quick because some of y'all are confused. Because this is a King Day event, this is not a college lecture. That means you can talk back to me. In the truest sense of call and response, please don't make me feel like I'm here by myself. For those of you that are unaware what call and response is, let me qualify it for you. If you like something I say mm-hmm. All right, I feel you. Amen. Yes. If you don't like it, shake your head. Point. Say, I'm going to see you after this. Whatever. Just don't make me feel like I'm here by myself. Amen? Thank you so much. On this 90th birthday and the entrance into a season of blackness, where institutions like Oakland and others find themselves in a place for about 45 days that they feel comfortable talking about black stuff. I am unbelievably anxious because it brings about a feeling of emotional depression for me during King Day. Because inevitably over the next 5 days, I'm going to hear a bunch of 10-year-olds reciting I Have a Dream speech. And it's going to make me want to kill myself. Some of y'all are like, what is he doing? Why? Because the problem with the I Have a Dream speech is that it has been misused by those of us that are still here. I don't ever want to hear it again unless I am allowing someone who's never heard it to hear it for the first time. Because what happens is we have shrunk Brother Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. into one speech that doesn't mildly encapsulate the breadth and depth of not only his entire evolution, but who he was when he died. Many of us forget that King was not popular at his death. I always find it interesting how old black people be lying. I was with King, and I marched with King, and I saw King when he came to town. You lying. Because when King came to town, it wasn't easy. People's license plate numbers got taken down, and they got reported to their jobs for being with a bunch of troublemakers, and they were told by other black folks, why don't you just be quiet and let things take their course? Because King was, even in his nonviolent approach, more revolutionary than many who were not saying anything at all. I Have a Dream was actually a speech I guarantee you he wish he wouldn't have given, because those that love him and hate him alike have used it to pacify the reality of who he actually was, what he lived and died for, in the name of making him more comfortable in death than he was in life. Let me quantify it for you. Gallup annually did the most admired men and women of the year. In 1963 through 1967, King was included somewhere in that list, and they also took both favorable and unfavorable ratings of King in the process. In 1963, he was not on the top 10 list, but he had a 41% favorable and 37% unfavorable rating. In 1964, he was listed as the fourth most admired man in America, with 43% approval rating and 39% disapproval. In 1965, he was listed as the sixth most admired man, with a 45% approval rating and a 45% negative rating. However, in 1966, he was definitely not on the list and had a 32% approval rating with 63% negative. This was a year preceding 1967 where on the list of most admired people was George Wallace. Let's have some context. Why would that happen? Why in 1963 could King give a speech that was so unbelievably moving that it is arguably one of the most amazing speeches in the histories of oratory? How from 1963 to 1966 could he go from being adored by at least just less than half of the population to almost less than a third? That's because people don't kill dreamers. They kill disruptors. And we have done an awful job of talking about the messages of King post-1963. That's why it frustrates me when I show up. And listen, please understand, this is not an indictment against the name of your organization or the name of your program. It's a critical analysis of history where we have every year keeping the dream and defending the dream and lifting the dream and pimping the dream and chopping the dream and screwing the dream and everything, dream this and dream that and dream, right? And we have programs that talk about what a prolific leader he was, but then minimize him to one speech that he wasn't even talking about when he died. Bear with me for one moment as I help you. In March of 1965, King said in our God is Marching On speech, which was at the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that's what's happened when the Negro and white masses of the South threatened to unite and build a great society. A society of justice where none would prey upon the weakness of others, a society of plenty where greed and poverty would be done away with. This was the beginning of when King's message started to be about the economy and poverty and the unification of the poor, which was dangerous. The American Dream speech, July 4th, 1965, King says, about 2 years ago, I stood with many of you who stood there in person and all of you who were there in spirit before the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. As I came to the end of my speech there, I tried to tell the nation about a dream I had. I must confess to you this morning that since that sweltering August afternoon in 1963, my dream has often turned into a nightmare. I've seen my dreams shattered as I've walked the streets of Chicago and seen Negro young men and women with a sense of utter hopelessness because they can't find any jobs. I've seen my dreams shattered as I've been through Appalachia. And I've seen my white brothers along with Negroes living in poverty, and I'm concerned about white poverty as much as I'm concerned about Negro poverty. See, when you begin to elevate yourself beyond the concerns of one population, even in your narrative, you become dangerous to a system that is always attempting to set apart those at the bottom. And we see that repeatedly in current day politics. How many of you have read the book Hillbilly Elegy? All right. Hillbilly Elegy, in my opinion, is a brilliant portrayal of a Yale law student's story growing up in Appalachian America. He talks about growing up in Ohio and his family in Kentucky, and that they were poor beyond belief. That they were violently defensive of their family. They would go to blows with anybody that came against their family. That they had bad health care and lack of access to dentist care. That the education that they got was poor, and that many of them, no matter what, all they wanted to do was leave where they were so that the next generation had the ability to have a better opportunity than the previous. As I read through the story of these unbelievably poor people in the mountains of Ohio and Kentucky, I saw people I knew on the east side of Cleveland. I saw people I knew on the west side of Baltimore. I saw people I knew on the south side of Chicago. The challenge is each of those groups have been manipulated to believe that they don't need, want, and desire the same thing. And so those in Appalachia would tell you that you were crazy if you told them that you knew families in the hood in Baltimore and Chicago and Detroit and Cleveland that were just like them. Equally, those families in the hood would tell you were crazy if you told them that there were some mountain folk that wanted the same thing that they did, that fought for their children the same way that you do, that have the same desire of access to medical attention but can't get it like you do, and just want to be able to have something better for their family. Because one group was told that they had to vote for Obama, and the other group were told that they had to vote for Trump, when both are in a position where if they unified, they would be telling politicians what they needed to deliver versus politicians telling them who was going to save them. King on April 4th, 1967, in Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break the Silence, we are taking black young men who had been crippled by our society and sending them 8,000 miles away to guarantee liberties in Southeast Asia, which had not been found in Southwest Georgia and East Harlem. So we have been repeatedly faced with the cruel irony of watching Negro and white boys on TV screens as they kill and die together for a nation that has been unable to seat them together in the same schools. Our only hope lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometime hostile world declaring eternal hostility to poverty, racism, and militarism. And now he's going after a larger structure. He's going after the military machine. He's continuing to deal with the issue of poverty. He's continued to try to unify those that have been told they're not supposed to be together. This is when King became a threat. He said in his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, in 1967, white Americans must recognize that justice for black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of our society. The comfortable entrenched in privilege cannot continue to tremble at the prospect of change of status quo. This is a multiracial nation where all groups are dependent on each other. There is no separate white path to power and fulfillment, short of social disaster, that does not share power with black aspirations for freedom and human dignity. And lastly, in The Other America, on March 10th, 1968, he said, but it's not enough for me to stand before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in our society. These conditions are the things that cause individuals to feel that they have no other alternatives than to engage in violent rebellion to get attention. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it America has failed to hear? It's failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. It's failed to hear that a large segment of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity. And if you thought those were challenging, the title of the speech that he was planning on giving on April 7th, 1968, was Why America May Go to Hell. That ain't the I Have a Dream speech, King. And so how dare we, in the name of celebrating a man, celebrate who he's not, in the name of making us feel comfortable about what we don't do. Let me say that again. Because most of the places this is lift up is in places where they are attempting to create new energy by emotionally responding to someone's message that is no longer timely and relevant for where we are right now. No, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pull from King's message to get inspiration, but inspiration is not leadership. And in 2019, I'm not telling my kids to follow a 1963 speech. In 2019, when I work with young people around the country, I'm not telling them to use this as a framework for their movement. Because King wasn't using it as a framework for his movement in 1964 and 1965 and 1967 and 1968, which is why he was killed. And why can't we be honest about that as we celebrate him? It doesn't take away anything that he did in 1963. In fact, it elevates the complexity of his leadership and highlights his evolution and growth. And how many of us as leaders sometimes feel stuck because the things that we've been saying often put us in a box with other people, and we don't often feel like we can evolve. I want these young leaders to know that you can evolve tomorrow from what you said yesterday. If you're courageous enough not to be imprisoned by your own ideology. I want you all to be able to ask me questions, so I need to hurry up. So what does dream mean to me? I think that it is essential as we move from this year, not just into another presidential election, but as we define what movement looks like and what institutional engagement looks like, and even as we define what diversity and inclusion and equity look like, that we have a more aggressive rallying cry for what we're demanding beyond conversation. Dream to me is delivering revolutionary equity and mastery. D, delivering. R, revolutionary. E, equity. A and M, mastery. What do I mean? I think that most diversity and inclusion stuff is really cute. I know we all do it. I've seen the pamphlets. Y'all seen them? You go to every campus, they got one. And it's always the same, right? You got a white person, a black person, an ethnically ambiguous person, and somebody else all sitting in a conversation, and you know the conversation is great because everybody's laughing. So my God, this institution must be incredible until I get there and I don't see them in a conversation. Because if we're honest, we have been much more dedicated to diversity than we've ever been dedicated to inclusion. Yeah, because that's money. That's money. We box checkers. How many boxes can we check? Isn't it great to check boxes? If you're in some of these meetings, it's amazing. It's like you got new exotic animals that have shown up at the zoo. We got 5% black people. We have 4% Latino. We even got some trans people. But then when you look at the board, you don't see them. When you look at senior executives, you don't see them. When you look at high-level managers, you don't see them. Because they're interested in box checking, but not interested in inclusion. See, the difference between diversity and inclusion is, diversity is, I'm gonna invite you to the dance. Inclusion is, I'm gonna ask you to dance. There's a difference. But to me, that's not enough. Because community and equity should be beyond diversity and inclusion. Because when you create community, not only are you inserting people into various levels of your infrastructure, when you create community, you're creating a place where all of those people feel comfortable being different. You're not winning when you start having people saying, I don't see race. What the hell are you talking about? I went to the University of Toledo. I was Black Student Union president for 2 years, and in the entire history of the University of Toledo, the only person of color ever to this day to be student government president. That's ridiculous. That's not, don't clap. That's not clap worthy. That's ridiculous. I remember being in classrooms where as a black student, I was constantly asked, why are you so angry? I'm just passionate. It's a cultural disconnect. Why are you always talking about this black stuff? Because as much as I try, it won't wash off. It's who I am. But when it came time to having the difficult discussions about why I was actually angry, most students weren't prepared. Because most white students weren't prepared for me to ask them, when did your family move to America? And usually they could tell me. Usually they could say, my grandfather came over from Germany, or my great-grandfather came over from Italy, or my great-great-grandfather came over from wherever. And I'm like, boy, that's great. I don't know when mine came. And they didn't keep good enough records on the plantations of the people that owned my family for me to have any idea about where my lineage in this country began. And on top of that, I don't know. I did 23andMe. And it came back like, you are 45% from West Africa. I'm like, Eureka. Who would have thought? But we laugh. But I don't know the prayers that my ancestors prayed. I don't know the God that they prayed to. I don't know the songs that they sang. I don't know the languages that they spoke. I don't know how they raised their children. I don't know who their kingdoms were. I don't know the story of the evolution of their people. I will never know it, and it pisses me off. And I don't say that to make anybody that's not black uncomfortable. I say it so that you understand where my passion comes from and we can have a level playing ground for building, because the moment you decide not to accept my story because it makes you uncomfortable is the moment you can't accept who I am. Equity is about power. I don't care about equality. I want power. Because equality is about, have we changed the human spirit enough to remove isms? You can't legislate equality. You can hold people accountable for being unequal to people. You can't legislate equality. We've had spaces of equality where there's been no transferences of power. That's not genuine. And so whether it's equity for black people, or whether it's equity for the trans community, or whether it's equity for people of different religions and faiths, or whether it's equity from those that find themselves alone in communities that they've decided to come to and participate in, but because of their difference, they're devalued. That's what I want to see. And there are enough studies and research that show that equity is profitable. Don't believe me? Please believe PolicyLink. They say, as it relates to corporation, rising inequity disproportionately affects workers of color who are concentrated in low-wage jobs with few opportunities for economic security or upward mobility. Estimates show that in 2015, the GDP would have been $2.5 trillion higher if people of color had earned the same as their white counterparts. What does that mean? That means that we are in a place where equity actually creates a greater health to the entire ecosystem. When you share power, everyone gets more powerful. When you deny power, you create an underclass that desires to take your power. Racial equity is a source of competitive advantage for corporations. Ignoring it leads to corporations to miss out on opportunities for innovation and growth. Companies can capture that advantage by reconceiving product markets, redefining productivity in the value chain, and strengthening the business context. This is from FSG and Policy Link. Lastly, advancing racial equity can translate into meaningful increases in consumer spending and tax revenue, decreases in social service and health spending. Advances in racial equity could lead to a 0.5% increase in long-term growth rates by 2050, says the Kellogg Foundation. When we do equity, we all do better. But we don't believe that, because many of us would rather hold on to traditional notions of power no matter where we are. This isn't just about a white and black issue. This is an issue of people believe that giving up power makes them weak, versus understanding that giving away power defines my strength. Shared power doesn't mean you lose. It just means we all don't have to. Because I don't care about ending isms. I was in a meeting with some clients, with a group of businessmen from Alabama. Each of them were CEOs in companies that were 1,000 to 10,000 employees. So not huge companies, but significant enough to play a role in hiring and moving the economy in the places that they were in. And they were forced to do this diversity piece. So I'm in Alabama with 12 CEOs, all of them above the age of 55, all white men, at a diversity program they had to come to. Yes, I am gangster. I started saying, listen, I know that 90% of you don't want to be here. I know that 85% of you are children that come from families of the Confederacy. I know that 85% of you have never had somebody that looked like me in your house for dinner. I know that 90% of you actually believe that white supremacy is what we need to continue to hold on to. The beautiful thing about that is I don't want you to change. Mic drops. I just want to ask you a simple question. I thought you were master capitalists. I'm confused about why you would allow your racism to diminish your quarterly earnings. Because here's where your company has the ability to make more money if you ensured that there was just a 0.5% increase in annual revenue from the people that work for you, that then have the ability to put more money back into the economy, making you more money. Here's the ability for you to have access to a whole new pool of talent that helps you create more market share in markets that you currently can't get into because you don't understand them. You doing this creates market differentiation between your competitor, who's not doing it either, that gives you greater brand loyalty from consumer markets spending from $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year. Dummy. I had a guy come up to me afterwards and say, buddy, I'm going to be real honest with you. I didn't want you to come here. I didn't want to be at this. I thought this was a bunch of nonsense. But listen, you said some stuff in there, and that's going to keep me up tonight. And I'm going to tell you, you might be on to something. Now, I don't have a good goddamn worth of a clue of how to get it done. But would you come back in 2 weeks and sit with me and some of my people and talk through how I need to do this? That's the alarm telling me I need to stop. He said that he wanted to do it. I said, let's see. 3 weeks later, we had dinner at his house. And he's moving to put in place a comprehensive diversity, inclusion, and equity strategy that provides metrics on how he as a company wins. I don't know if he's going to change how he feels about black and brown people. I don't care. because of his willingness to make more money, puts him into a system that ensures that black and brown people have more power, then we can get to the human stuff later. It doesn't mean that I'm abandoning the moral imperative. It means that the moral imperative has to be connected to a level of equity provision so that before we change minds, we don't have to wait for minds to change for people's reality to be transformed. Very quickly, mastery is essential because in the movement in 2019, we have more young people and not so young people more interested in the appearance of movement than movement. And so whether it's civil rights celebrities that are more interested in being on CNN or MSNBC or the occasional appearance on Fox News or showing up places and getting applause, than they do actually having a legitimate strategy that helps transform and create solutions. It's simultaneously being mirrored by young activists that judge their success by the number of followers they have on the gram or Twitter than how they mobilize those followers into a place that actually creates transformation for students on campus or students in the community. And so we have elevated leadership based on their ability to talk and inspire versus their ability to develop sophisticated strategy that leads us step by step towards better existence for society. And I, for one, am tired of it. That's why I don't often work with college leaders, because they be whack. Everything is about the meeting. You come to the meeting? You come to the meeting? No, I'm not coming to the meeting. Because somebody got the gall to ask you, well, what you doing at the meeting? We're going to have a conversation to determine if we're going to have an election that decides whether or not we do a poll to determine whether or not we're going to have a referendum that takes us back to have a vote on what the hell we talking about at the next meeting. How many students in this room know you've been at 2-hour meetings, and when you left, you were like, what did we discuss? What did we do? Leadership is always about mastery, and even at the college level, if we're not dedicated to ensuring that we're training each other in the things that we don't know, how are we doing skill assessments of the very people that are volunteering to find out what they innately do well, and then connect them with resources that help tailor and build and strengthen that natural area that needs to be a source of developing mastery, so that when you begin to engage your campus, whether it is in a strategic way that is a partnership because you've got leadership that believes in you, or whether it's in an antagonistic way because you've got leadership that doesn't, no matter what, is strategic enough to be about results and not egomaniacal narcissists that only care about being the best leader that's ever been on the campus versus the leader that ensures that when they leave, the organization is in a better place than it was than when you got it. Mastery ensures that we don't half-step. Mastery ensures that we hold each other accountable. One of the biggest things I loved to do when I was a student leader was fire people. No, I'm dead serious. Because student leaders have people that they work with that are friends, and friendship gets in the way of work. Because many of us have not been conditioned to understand that your friendship is not more important than this mission. I was president of student government, and the first person I had to fire was the only black dude that I had on the on the executive committee. And I told him, I'm like, listen, man, I need the plans by this time. All right, Jeff, I got you. I need the plans by this time. All right, Jeff, I got you. Time came, no plans. I said, look, dog, I'm going to need these in 60 minutes before we go into this cabinet meeting because, come on, I'm the first black dude. You the only other black dude. They all going to have a report. We can't be the only two black dudes, and I'm looking at you like, it's all right that you don't. No, we can't do that. Fired him.
I said, look, man, check it. You don't even need to come to the meeting. Let's connect at the bar afterwards. He was like, why ain't I come to the meeting? I said, because you're no longer on the cabinet. Why? Dude, you didn't do what you needed to do. Listen. I refuse to watch you, watch me, watch you, watch me do your job. Use the Constitution to get them out. Because the movement for social change and justice, regardless of what sector you're fighting in, is predicated on the seriousness and the focus of the people that you have working with you to bring about the change. And if we give people a scapegoat because we're friends, then what people in the LGBT plus community don't get served? What people in the disabled community, in the able-bodied or disabled community don't get served? What people in the various systems that we're trying to transform to bring about equity don't get served because we haven't committed to mastery as much as we've committed to friendship? And before I get out of here, I just have to talk about allies, because this word gets thrown around a lot in the social justice space, especially as it relates to women, as it relates to people of color. This violence against women piece, I keep hearing who male allies are in social justice spaces about immigration. I keep hearing about who non-immigrant allies are. In other spaces, I keep talking about allies, and I'm like, well, you cannot be a self-proclaimed ally. Stop. Hear me. You and all your liberal wonderfulness. You are not an ally because you said so. You are not an ally because you came to the march. You are not an ally because you came to the event. Ally status has to be given by the group that is fighting after watching you be consistent enough when nobody is watching that they can trust that when you're not around them, you have a level of integrity, not only to the narrative and the mission of the movement, but that you're courageous enough to say the things that need to be said when only your folks are there. We have to build allies because none of us can do this alone. But allies cannot be manipulated there have been too many movements on campuses in particular that have been destroyed because an ally was an overseer. And an overseer is somebody that claims to be your friend, but in their privilege, they don't agree to transfer power. I cannot be around you with power and decide not to transfer power and be your friend unless I'm committed to being an overseer. That's what an overseer does. An overseer has power and watches you without power wallow in powerlessness. So just because we're friendly doesn't mean you're an ally. Only become allies when we do what we can to transfer the power that we have to those that don't have power, that they have access to redemption. Beloved brothers and sisters, I'll tell you this. I have long lost the desire for a kumbaya moment, though I hope for it. I'm not interested in holding hands and singing together, though I hope it comes. I don't care if you love trans people or you embrace Latino people or if you lift up those that have some level of challenge. What I care about is, do you have a commitment to transfer resources and access and power and opportunity? Because that's what King died for. He didn't die for us to hold hands at the same bad school. He didn't die for us to sit together at the same lunch counter of disenfranchised people. He died because he fundamentally believed that in a nation as great as the United States, that there was unnecessary poverty, and that there was a way to deal with unnecessary poverty by ensuring that those that go without have an opportunity to just get a glimpse of the prosperity that some take for granted. There can be a society where we recognize we're all flawed, We all have difficult conversations. We build them on understanding, not judgment. Can we talk to those we disagree with without shouting? Can we talk to people we disagree with without feeling like we have to convert them versus understand them? My conversation with you today is not to get you to believe anything. My conversation with you is to get you to believe what I think so you understand me. And that if you disagree, that we can at least start the conversation from you understanding why I believe what I believe. That's incredible. When you're able to sit and have a dope conversation with somebody that you just vehemently disagree with in a way that I don't have to call you a name, I don't have to talk about and devalue where you come from, I don't have to disenfranchise your very being or your family or call you names in the name of making myself feel better about what I believe, that even if I don't agree with anything you say when I walk away, that I at least understand you as a human being, and that I see the humanity in you, and that I'm going to vehemently fight politically to make sure that your beliefs don't become policy. But in the moment where it comes time for a break, I can at least see the humanity in you and speak to that humanity, that we could agree on something that benefits the masses of us versus die with nobody being served. I don't know what King would be fighting for if he's still alive. I don't pretend to. I know what we have the ability to fight for if we're just committed to doing it. And so as I take my seat, I just ask that you all would be like Tyrone. Somebody's supposed to say, who's Tyrone? Yeah, that was it. Nobody. Tyrone was a young brother from Detroit, Michigan, that used to visit his grandmother in Natchez, Mississippi. And for those of y'all that don't know Natchez, Mississippi, it's a small town outside of a small town. And he'd go down to the summer, and once a week he would go to the store to get what his grandmother needed to cook and to clean. And they go into the store, and the store owner, Mr. Johnson, says, Tyrone, it's good to see you. Come back here and get a handful of candy. And Tyrone looked at him with a Detroit swag and was like, man, that ain't my job. You do it. And his grandmother was furious, grabbed him by the elbow and pulled him to the side. What is the matter with you? You've been taught better than this. And he looked at his grandmother as seriously as a 7-year-old can look at an 82-year-old. He said, Big Mama, his hands are bigger than my hands. So if he puts his hand in the candy dish, I get more candy. Because it's all about whose hands it's in. In my hands, a basketball is worth about $45. But in the hands of the Cavs, it ain't never going to be worth a championship again. My hands of football is worth about $50, but in the hands of one team in 2 weeks, it's going to be worth a Super Bowl championship because it's all about whose hands it's in. In my hands, a tennis club is worth about $100, but in the hands of the Williams sisters, it brought black women to tennis in a way that the world has never seen before. In my hands, a golf club is an absolute joke. But in the hands of Tiger Woods, we had young men that wanted to play golf because they saw somebody that looked like them walking down the fairway at the Masters because it's all about whose hands it's in. In my hands, a pencil is something I use to write notes for the week, but in the hands of Langston Hughes wrote prose that said, I too am America. I'm the darker brother. They send me to the kitchen when company comes, but I just laugh and eat well and grow strong because one day when company comes, I'll sit at the table and they'll see how beautiful I am and they'll be ashamed. In my hands, a book is what I use for empowerment, but in the hands of countless men and women that attempted to write direction for those of us that believe in justice. We've seen best practices and opportunities and stories that could change the very fabric of the schools and the communities we come from. The question is, what will you do with your hands? This is not about King's dream. This is not about King's time. This is about yours. And if you want to be inspired by him, you have to use your hands the way he was committed to use his. What will you build? Who will you touch? Who will you embrace? Who will you love? Who will you uplift? Who will you mentor? What will you build? What will you leave for those that are coming next? Because if we want to embrace the legacy of King, the question will not be, what did King do? The question will be, what did you do?
I know you're glad you came and celebrated this Dr. King Day with us here at Oakland University. Thank you, Jeff, for that wonderful story that you've given us, the narrative that you've painted, the opportunity for us to engage, to create our own legacy. Thank you. So as we close the Keeper of the Dream 27th Annual, I thank you all for your participation. I see a lot of you who have returned again to celebrate with us here at Oakland University. There's some new faces. If this is your first Keeper of the Dream, thank you for attending, and I hope that you join us again. And I want to thank all of the committee members who have worked tirelessly to put this event on, all of your hard work, and it's come to fruition today. So that concludes our 27th Annual Keeper of the Dream. Thank you for spending part of your day braving the cold, and we understand that we're going to warm you up a little bit when you get downstairs. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.